to talk. And what I'm going to talk about this morning is the amazing and brilliant plan that President Trump has for Ukraine. And he's spelled it all out. He's told us all about it. And after Zelensky's screw up yesterday, it's even more obvious. And, you know, they keep telling us, I've heard this my whole life, you can't run the government like a business. All these businessmen think they can be president. They don't know it. President Trump is running everything he does in the government like a business. And it is very brilliant what he's doing. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. So let me go through what the Trump-Ukraine plan is, because the media, they don't want to tell you what the Trump-Ukraine plan is, and it's brilliant. And, you know, of course we know what the liberals, the left, the Democrats, the warmongers of the Republican establishment want. They want an endless war. They want another Cold War with Russia. That's not what I'm talking about here. But usually, you know, in a situation like this, well, you know, President Trump does not want Russia to occupy Ukraine. President Trump is legitimately trying to preserve the sovereignty of Ukraine. And I want to tell you something. 25% of the Ukrainian population, think about this, 25% of the Ukrainian population has died in this war. 25%. And just to give you an example of how many people that is, if the United States lost 25% of our population in the Second World War, we would have lost close to 50 million people. So that's a tremendous loss of life, and it's not ending, and they're getting weaker, so they're going to be overrun without our help. And typically, what these corrupt, stupid, incompetent presidents we've had in the past, what they would do in a situation like this, they want to preserve the sovereignty of Ukraine, just like Trump wants to preserve the sovereignty of Ukraine. But what these past corrupt loser presidents would do is they would drag the war out as long as they could for the military-industrial complex donors, and then they would set up a U.S. military presence that's permanent in Ukraine. That's not what Trump is doing. What Trump is planning for Ukraine is brilliant, and something that no politician, no president has done before, and it's because he's a businessman. And here's what the Trump plan is for Ukraine. Sign the mineral deal and contracts with the United States so that we have an interest in the minerals to pay us back, and Ukraine is destroyed. I mean, President Trump tells us outside of Kiev, the other cities are like Gaza. Give the United States the contracts to rebuild Ukraine, which is going to take a long time. But because of the mineral deals and everything else, we're going to have a permanent presence, not militarily in Ukraine, but a business presence. So that's part one, and that serves a couple purposes. One, it pays the United States back for all the money we poured into Ukraine, and it also generates revenue for the economy of the United States. And another benefit of that is that there would be United States civilians, not military, United States civilians in Ukraine permanently. These companies would be there. There'd be workers there. There'd be American families there. That would become a permanent thing that as time goes by would even grow into a larger population. And Putin is not going to invade or attack a country that has a large U.S. population in it and U.S. interest in it. Much better than having a military presence there, right? Very smart. By the way, welcome. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. If you just joined us, rewind to the beginning, because I'm going through what Trump's plan is for Ukraine, which is really beautiful and amazing. Second, okay, the areas that Russia occupy that are part of Ukraine or were part of Ukraine, You got to kiss those off, all right? Crimea, that's Russia forever. I mean, you know, come on. A lot of the area that Putin has taken, he's going to keep. So what President Trump is going to do is this. Russia's lost 600,000 or so soldiers or people, maybe more. You know, like the official numbers we have are around 600,000. So they may be covering up their losses. Their losses may be more. Plus, there's a massive international embargo against Russia, which is hitting them hard financially. So President Trump is going to is right now, as we are speaking, negotiating with Russia, using the lifting of sanctions so that they can do business internationally. Okay, Russia, which they can't do now, and they need that money. Putin needs that money, and doing that, not just stop the war, not just a ceasefire, but a permanent end to the war, getting to sign a treaty, Putin, but also get Putin to move back as far as he can. Now, he's going to keep a lot of that. Crimea, that's Russia. He's going to keep a whole bunch of that territory he's taken. That's it. Ukraine is going to be smaller when the war's over than when the war began. That's just something you got to deal with. And then set up a permanent border between the newly acquired parts of Ukraine that are going to become Russia and what Ukraine is after this. There'll be some type of international zone, maybe, and by the way, Ukraine is not going to be a part of NATO. There'll be some type of zone that will be similar to what we have in Korea, okay, so that there's a bit of a buffer between Russia and Ukraine, so they're not taking shots at each other and getting in skirmishes all the time. What that'll look like, we don't know. It's a brilliant plan. And Zelensky, the way that he came in is insane. Our great Secretary of State and fellow Floridian, Marco Rubio, all right? Marco Rubio said that they've, what, been 2 or 3 times, they've tried to get Zelensky to sign a deal, and Zelensky would not sign a deal. He would not sign a deal. And then he said he wanted to come to the White House to do it, and he had no intention on signing jack at the White House either, other than taking another check. He had no intention on signing any of those deals, even in Washington. So that's what really blew things up. There was that trigger between him and JD, but him coming here, refusing to sign, refusing the mineral deal, refusing to agree to a ceasefire, which is, you got to have a ceasefire before you can have the peace talks and a summit meeting with Putin. He doesn't want the war to end when 25% of the Ukrainian population is dead. And like I said at the beginning, 25% of the Ukrainian population is dead in this war. That would be the equivalent of the United States losing 50 million, maybe a little less, give or take, in the Second World War. The population was just under 200 million in 1941. So what is so unreasonable with what President Trump is offering? We cannot continue to fund Ukraine. One of the reasons that we have this high inflation, it's one of the major reasons, is the government's been spending too much money. They've been spending too much money on the war and other things. Overspending of the government is the #1 cause of inflation. Now, this Trump peace plan for Russia and Zelensky, this is not something I just came up with and said, oh, you know, this is what, if you watch the news, this is what President Trump is talking about doing. And I think it's a pretty smart plan. Now, what are your thoughts? I mean, what the hell is wrong with Zelensky that he doesn't want the war to end? Is it just the money? Is he sick? You know, when his country is losing the war. It's a hopeless war that they cannot win. President's up the street at Mar-a-Lago. Zelensky tried to get back together with him. He says, "No, I don't have time for that." And you know, these countries in Europe. I was talking last week. I'm not going to go through it all now, but the militaries of Europe and NATO, they really don't have militaries. They do not. The countries of Europe that are in NATO do not have large militaries. Their militaries are like for parades. They really don't have armies, navies, or air forces. They have very small forces. They have no ability to back Ukraine up against Russia. It's only the United States. But, but the media want to portray this as some ego exercise. That's not what happened yesterday. I think President Trump came up with one of the most brilliant peace plans between two countries in a state of war that I've ever heard. That's right. Oh, I hit the record button. Hold on. 1, 2. I don't know why it's recording. 1, 2. The red means it's recording. I can't get it to shut off. Oh, the battery's low. I might have to switch the mics. Hold on. There we go. I got another mic. You always got to have a spare. Everywhere I go, I have more than one microphone. Just down the street from the house, I've got 2. You can record on these, so there's a red light on this side. The red light on this side means the battery's low. So, always prepared. So let me ask you. Okay, so I went through the whole Trump peace plan for Ukraine and Russia. I think it's the most brilliant plan I've ever heard a president of the United States have to end a war. What are your thoughts? They do not have 3.5 million combat soldiers in the NATO countries. That's a lie. It may say that on paper so they can keep stealing our money from NATO, but they do not have 3.5 million combat soldiers. And look, the president said yesterday the average age of a soldier in Ukraine is over 40 years old. When you have soldiers that's the average age. That means some of them are like in their 50s or 60s. Russia wants peace. I mean, there's a global embargo against them. They're really suffering financially, and they've lost 600,000 by their own numbers. So it could be more. But Ukraine is losing. They're losing too many people. They can't keep. If the war continues, they've already lost 25% of their population. So, I don't know how Pablo from Ukraine on YouTube has not been drafted. Is he getting USA ID money, Pablo from Ukraine? That coffee is too hot to drink. I gotta let it cool off some more. I think what President Trump is proposing for the end of the war is not only brilliant, it's more than generous for Ukraine. Look at the situation that's going on here in our country. We're overtaxed. Our inflation's through the roof. Our roads and bridges are falling apart. Our airports suck. Our public transportation sucks. We got a lot of problems in this country. We can't be funding all these conflicts around the world. And this idea that, Putin's a dictator. Okay, so what? What does that have to do with anything? Right? What does that have to do with anything? What's even the relevance of that? There's a lot of dictators, and we've worked with dictators before, many times. So what if he's a dictator? So is Zelensky. Not only have they suspended elections, Zelensky has outlawed opposition political parties. Think about that. He's outlawed opposition political parties. He's outlawed freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. All these things are gone. So how can you say Putin's a dictator and Zelensky's not? So we got 2 dictators. So what? What are you supposed to do? You can't call him a dictator. The president said yesterday, what am I supposed to do? Say terrible things about Putin and say, hey, Vlad, let's get together and make a deal? You can't do that. Franklin Roosevelt worked with a dictator. Stalin was a dictator. How many Russians were murdered by Stalin? Right? And he was not only was he an ally of ours during the Second World War, They had the big meetings with Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt. So I'm sorry. I thought Brian Glynn asked the best question. Why are you dressed in this hiking outfit? That was a great one. That was a great one. It was very it is disrespectful for him not to wear a suit to the Oval Office. Zelensky's a dictator, yes. He's in office past his term, won't hold an election. Zelensky has outlawed opposition political parties. There's no freedom of the press, no freedom of religion, and no freedom of speech. I'm just trying to figure, when they've drafted everyone, the average age of their soldiers is over 40. How is Pablo from Ukraine on YouTube hopping around the countryside with his... Oh, sorry. My stand fell, with his girlfriend with no bra on? Hold on, guys. I'll move it way over here. There we go. How's that? That works. This is the microphone charging case. So that's that. I think what the president has done is pretty smart, and he handled Zelensky just like he should have handled him yesterday. You know, the way Zelensky has behaved was so inappropriate yesterday, and I know the press want to portray this, that they ganged up on him, but that's not what happened. He came over here based on a lie, with zero intention on ending the war. He wants to sign nothing. And I thought it was interesting how JD brought up that Zelensky came to Pennsylvania, to that munitions factory, and was campaigning for Kamala Harris. I mean, you know, what the hell? Here you are, a nation at war. You don't see Netanyahu doing that. He stays out of it. In election times, Netanyahu stays out of politics in the United States. You know, he's trying to affect who's going to run our country, and now no. You know, guys like Zelensky, if you go around and say everyone's a bad guy except you're the bad guy. Everyone's crazy but you're the crazy one. That's it. Well, the phone's too far for me to see the chat. Well, let me move it again. Let's see if this will work this time. All right. Here we go. We'll give it a go. Well, if anyone would have won other than Trump, Republican or Democrat, not just Kamala, the war would go on forever and ever and ever, and eventually Putin would move in, or we'd have to send in the army. See, at the rate that Zelensky is losing fighters, how much longer can they even put up a fight without other countries sending troops in? So that would have been the next phase with Kamala or Nikki Haley, or DeSantis, or Christy, or, you know, Biden, or any of them, or this idiot Newsom who thinks he's going to be president. They would eventually send U.S. troops over there, call them peacekeepers. But I got to tell you something. There we go. What's going to happen is President Trump's going to set up a deal with Putin, come out and announce it, and Zelensky's either going to go along with it or not. But Zelensky, it is very likely that Zelensky is going to be deposed. I'm sure that's what they're talking about over there. There's a Ukrainian general who wants to be the president of Ukraine. You know, and President Trump said it yesterday. At the on the tarmac, he says he wants to be able to deal with somebody who wants peace. He doesn't care who the president of Ukraine is. He wants somebody that wants peace. He wants to end the killing. And Putin knows that Trump means business, that he's not playing around. I mean, look at what Trump did. He took out Soleimani. No one had the balls to do that, and that's been that's a decision. It was the right thing to do. We saved a lot of lives, but his life is always going to have that, you know, over its head, because the Iranians are nuts, and they're never going to forget that. Zelensky said he would step down, but did you see him do it? Exactly. That coffee is like 200 degrees. I asked for extra cream, and I like the cold cream, which kind of, but they steamed the cream. It's easy to be a tough guy when you're not doing the fighting. You know, he wears that fake battle uniform like he's leading troops. It's completely clean. There's no dirt on those boots. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And if you'd like to support my channel, you can become a member of the channel or become a Patreon supporter. There's a link to my Patreon in the description of the video, or become a YouTube member where you get all the cool emojis and get your name to stand out so I can see you in chat, like Michael Todd and Allison Craig there. Allison Craig, no relation to me. Well, you know, there's another thing, too, that they haven't really gotten to. Who are Zelensky's handlers right now? You know, I watched the Bret Baier interview, and Bret Baier did not ask him the one of the most telling moments. If you did not catch my live stream yesterday after the White House event, go and watch it when I go through it, because I played the audio. When the vice president was talking, Zelensky, under his breath in Russian, called J.D. Vance a bitch. Oh, I thought the Bret Baier interview sucked. You know, what a dumbass. Bret Baier had one of the most historic interview opportunities in decades, because there was, you know, this blow up at the White House. There's never been anything like it. Never. I know they keep saying, you know, this was like Reagan with Gorbachev in Reykjavik, Iceland. No, because whatever happened in there was in private. And I don't know if they were yelling at each other. We never saw it. This was live, broadcast to the world. No one has seen anything like this. And, you know, and President Trump said it himself. You know, people need to see what Zelensky's really like. Oh, Brett dropped the ball. Yeah, it was almost like those were the questions he was going to ask in advance. I mean, you know, I want you to think about this, okay? You got Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. You got two big guys in this punk country. He can't get along with Putin. He can't get along with Trump. He's got to go. They were already yesterday in the Ukrainian parliament talking about impeaching and removing Zelensky from office. They need a president that can deal with President Trump, that doesn't hate President Trump, that's not calling our vice president a bitch. You know, he even said, Zelensky, that to Bret Baier, that it was inappropriate for J.D. Vance to be speaking in that meeting. Who the freak does he think he is? That is the White House. He's the sitting vice president of the United States of America, and the president didn't seem to mind. I was pretty proud of J.D. Can you see him being our second MAGA president? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. He did that was the toughest I think I've ever seen a millennial, was JD yesterday. That was beautiful. Absolutely. That was some badass stuff. Have you ever seen a vice president of the United States stand up and whip it out like that before? They don't do jack. Most of them are boobs. Why are you ignoring our questions? Well, absolutely. I didn't see any questions of yours, and you know, you can throw one out there. If I think it's worthy of comment, I might respond. But you know, just because you throw a question doesn't mean I'm going to respond to it. Yeah, JD was tough, man. Don't mess with the hillbillies. You know, you should get his book. I got JD's book on tape, and I was listening to it in the car for, you know, a few days. It's very good. Very good. Now that he's going to be our second MAGA president, I thought JD handled himself better than any vice president I've seen ever. I've never seen that. Well, you know, we're taking him from Ohio. I'm originally from Ohio. I'm in Florida now, but we're going to consider him a Buckeye. Yeah, the President Trump said JD'd have to earn his endorsement. You think he earned that endorsement yesterday? If he keeps up like that, he's got it. Mm-hmm. Oh. You know, that was, you know, it wasn't just that JD was so kick-ass. He's new at that level, and he faced down Zelensky. I really thought it was going to come to blows between the two of them. I was waiting for it. I really was. That was pretty intense. I couldn't believe it. My dialect is more Ohioan than Floridian. I don't know about that. I've been in Florida since I was 11, and Florida is such a mishmash of everybody. I don't know if there's a Florida accent. My wife is a native Floridian. She doesn't have some accent. The Ukrainian ambassador, I think, is about ready to defect to the United States. I've rarely seen something like that on TV. The only time I've seen someone like that on TV where they're like this is when Alec Baldwin was married to Kim Basinger. They were presenting an award. It might have been for the Oscars. I can't remember if it was the Oscars or the Emmys. And they go out on stage to present together, and she was high as a kite. Kim Basinger, you know, she's cool now, but she had a substance problem. And Alec Baldwin, he put his hand on his head. He's like, "Oh God." He knew they were, you know, it was pretty funny. Had to be the Oscars. Zelensky reminds me of Greta Thunberg. You don't sound black, okay? Well, when I first came to Florida, there were a lot more good old boys in Florida than there aren't so many good old boys anymore. Florida used to have a lot of good old boys and rednecks and stuff. Not so much anymore. Very spoiled, entitled, yeah, and insane. He's insane. I mean, when your country, which Ukraine has lost 25% of their population, not their fighting force, Ukraine has lost 25% of their population to this war, and he won't end it? I mean, you know, he owes it to his people. Zelensky is really becoming a mass murderer. Russia says 600,000. I would bet it's higher. I mean, you know, they all want to end it. Everybody wants to end it but Zelensky. And you know, NATO, screw NATO. I think the only reason we're in NATO is to stop, like, Ukraine and things like that from joining. Now, if you missed the beginning of the stream, rewind to the beginning. I go through Trump's plan to end the Ukraine-Russian war, which is the most brilliant peace plan any president of the United States has ever come up with the ending of a war. He just thinks in different ways. We're not used to it. You know, our leaders, other than Trump, are just stupid. Z Corp Alpha, $2 super chat, thank you. How do I feel about the 26 midterms? Good one. You know, it's a little far out. It depends. If things keep going like they are, we may maintain control. I mean, historically, the party in power loses control in the midterms, but we're in a new place now. Don't you think, Z-Corp? Zelensky already tried to call back to Trump, and Trump said no. What did he say when he landed in Florida? He says, "I don't have time for that." That's right. That's part of the Trump plan. It's cloudy day here in South Florida, and it's when I got out of the car, it was 62 degrees, but the sun's come out, so it might have hit 63 by now. So that's freezing weather for Floridians. Pretty cold for us. I was going to ride the MAGA scooter, but when I saw it was 62 degrees, that wind chill, I said, forget it. Well, I saw on YouTube a little while ago, the Associated Press interviewed some Ukrainians on the street about the confrontation, and of course they interviewed like just a couple people, and they all hate Trump. Zelensky was told to act like that. 49 in Tampa. Oh my goodness, I couldn't handle that Tampa weather. No, we're trying to help Ukraine. You know, it's Zelensky's killing Ukrainians. I want you to think about it. I mean, Ukraine has lost 20% or 25% of their population. 25%. What's the current population of the United States? If it's over 300 million, but at 300 million, that's 75 million. If we lost 75 million Americans in a war, that's a lot. 350 million. So that's like losing what, 80, 85 million? What's 25% of 350? Round it up or down, whichever it's closest to. I mean, that's a lot. That's like 80 million people in our population. That's a lot. We don't give a shit about what the world thinks, okay? I mean, Mario, you must not be American. We care about what Americans think. And he just won the national election in every battleground state. So America loves Trump. See, this is the whole thing. We don't give a shit about Europe. It's a tourist trap. It's like, anybody ever been to south of the border? That's Europe. Tourist trap. 1,000% American? Well, hey, you know, we all have bad apples. I've never heard anybody describe themselves as an American in that kind of way, so I question that you're American. What are you, South American? Canadian, calling yourself like North American? I'm talking about United States of American. Just an American with intelligent. Don't you mean intelligence? Just an American with intelligent. Oh my goodness. What a dumbass. If you're bragging about your intelligence, obviously not a native English speaker either. Oh my goodness. No, we don't care about Europe. Most of the problems that the United States has had to face are because of Europe. Look, this war right now that's going on. The Russian dossier, British intelligence. Remember Bosnia? Oh my gosh, that went on forever. 2 world wars. Slavery that American liberal blacks are still pissed off about, that came here because of Europe. You know, so yeah, Europe is a poison. They don't give they're just nothing positive from Europe. Exactly. Well, they don't have to like us, so what? Who cares? Screw them. We don't care. We don't care. I have zero interest in going to Europe. I could go to Europe. No interest. Zero interest. Less than zero. What's there? Really? Anymore. Tourist traps. Well, and of course the caliphate, you know. Looks like Europe's lost the Crusades. They've been overtaken. Now, if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe. My name's Brian, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. If it warms up, I might take the MAGA scooter up to Mar-a-Lago today, make a YouTube video. If it warms up. Ride up A1A, the road on the beach. Maybe I'll make a YouTube video of that. There was a time when I was interested in going to Europe, but we have everything we need right here in the United States. That's right. Yeah, I'd be more interested in going to Vietnam than, yeah, the Vietnam War they gave us France. That's exactly right. France, Europe started that crap. Yeah, come on. Well, if you read, you don't have to travel to understand the rest of the world. Plus, I got an international audience here on YouTube. We're very cultured. Absolutely. Very well read. MAGA people are the most informed people in the country. If you're MAGA, you know what's going on. You're very well informed. You're very cultured. If you're a liberal, you're not informed. You're ignorant. It is a nice ride. I'm only going to do it if it gets warmer, though. I'm not gonna take the ride in the, because when it's chilly, you get that wind chill. But it's a nice ride up the beach to Mar-a-Lago. But there's so much security when you get up there. I don't know what roads they have shut down or not for the president. You know, there's not only is the president there, a big chunk of the cabinet are there. So. But I'd like to take the ride today if the weather warms up. I wanted to go to the airport last night to see the president, but I was planning on going to see when he came into land, but I couldn't stop watching the video footage of him and Zelensky and all the coverage of it. You know, yeah, I thought that the Democrats were the give peace a chance crowd. Now all they want to do is have endless wars. Thank God for Trump, damn straight. Trump is amazing. He is truly an amazing man. No getting around that. Lindsey Graham, okay, Lindsey Graham stands for nothing, okay? Lindsey Graham gravitates to whoever the biggest alpha male in the room is at the time. So who's ever the big alpha man in politics at the time, he gravitates to them and agrees to them. He's got some daddy issues, so he's always looking for a daddy. It's Donald Trump now, it was McCain for a while, it was Trump during the first term, and then the last 4 years, there was no daddy. Now, you can trust Lindsey Graham, though, more than a lot of these rhino Republicans, because you can trust Lindsey to be Lindsey. You know? Yeah, you know what he's gonna, you know where he's gonna go with Lindsey Graham. That's it. Yeah, but that's Lindsey. But listen, this war's got to end. This war has got to end. President Trump, this whole second term of President Trump is a reset of the world to put America back in its proper place in it and get our country back on track. Yeah, we need what's wrong with having a deal with Russia? Is not our enemy. We have a long history with Russia. They are not our enemy. The Russian people have no beef with us, and I got no beef with them. Now, these dumbass Democrats in this country are obsessed with Russia and hating Russia. But Russia's awesome. They're not our enemy. No. The war between Russia and Ukraine really is a civil war. That's it. It's a civil war. It's none of our business. I mean, you know, if I'll pick the most extreme example. If California decided they were going to break away from the United States, would we let them? No, that's what the Civil War was about. The Civil War was about slavery, but the Democrats tried to leave the Union. And our great President Lincoln said, states do not have a right to leave the Union. And that was it. This is, you know, and he views the Ukraine as part of Russia. I mean, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I just don't care. And I don't think many Americans do. But, you know, Democrats care about nothing other than hating on Trump. That's why they obsess over things like the price of eggs. Trump was very much in control, as was J.D. Vance. If it wasn't for Russia, you know how many Americans and Europeans would have died in the Second World War? Russia lost 10 million in the Second World War. They had the whole Eastern Front, you know, and who knows, maybe we would not have even won the Second World War, at least not in Europe, if it were not for Russia. Yeah, 20 million? Yeah. It takes time, man. The prices will go down. Who's J.D. Vance? J.D. Vance is the second MAGA president of the United States. In 4 years, he'll be president. That's who J.D. Vance is. Now, the Soviet Union was, now that was a dictatorship. Yeah, he tried. They wouldn't let him back in. I mean, they kicked him out. That was awesome. He got himself kicked out. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure that you subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, please like the video, guys. I'd appreciate it. All right. I'm going to take off, but I'll see you later, all right? Take care. Thanks for watching.